All right, we're live. This is not your average webinar. This is going to be a fun conversation. I've got the amazing Daryl Prell here. I'm going to introduce him in just a second. He is a CRO. We are talking all about aligning sales and marketing, but without the fluff, without the hot air. No hurricanes, no fires. We're going to get right to it. It's all about maximizing revenue by aligning sales and marketing in the tech stack. So we're getting into the tech as well. And we've got a lot of people joining us here live who will be asking questions, saying random things, and being a part of this. So if you can make it next time, join us live. Otherwise, great to see you in the recording. If you have any questions, you can't ask them live, but you can email me, Casey@CheshireImpact.com. It will get you an answer. Topics today are going to include a bunch of different things. We have the challenges that sales faces, frustrations from marketing, where BDRs and SDRs fit. Why do they even have different names like that? Are they the same thing or not? We're going to get into that. The tech stack for revenue operations. It's not the sales operations, the marketing. It's revenue operations. We're going to talk about that. Reaping the reward of aligned technology. We'll talk products. Live Q&A at the end if we haven't already obliterated all your questions before then. And with that, we are going to get started. I am Casey Cheshire, everyone. Welcome. We're going to get started with a quick poll. Right after this, the goal here today is to discuss the challenges that both sales and marketing are facing and get some practical tips and some advice and some strategies, some tactics to address them. Q&A is at the end, but we'll ask our questions throughout. And with that, I am joined today by a 2020 top 10 SaaS branding expert, top 19 B2B marketer to follow, Sales World top 50 keynote speaker, podcaster, #1 CRO on the planet, my friend Daryl Prell at VanillaSoft. How are you, man?
Casey, I got to hire you as my publicist. You're awesome.
What do they call that? Am I your front man? I'm your the guy. I'm your hype guy.
You're a hype guy?
Hype man.
I don't need a wingman. I got that part taken care of already.
No,
my wife would not be happy if I had a wingman. But yeah, you could be my front man.
Yeah, I'll be your front man. I'll like bebop.
Hype man. Logan says hype man.
Here he is. Hype man.
Yeah.
There it is. Logan would know. Logan knows things.
Logan knows everything.
Well, dude, I'm glad you're here. We wanted to get into this. There's a lot of different things to say, a lot of different things to do, but I want to start out because we've got some amazing people here live. Kelly, Brandy, Katie, Lacey. Oh, good to see you, Lacey. You snuck in. You snuck in after the bell, but that's cool. I'm glad you're here. So one of the things I want to do is poll the audience real quick. What is your biggest challenge with sales and marketing? And allow panelists to vote. Biggest challenge with sales and marketing, because, and this is important, if you are here and you're here live, utilize this thing and vote so that we can customize our conversation, some of our
biggest challenge in sales and marketing.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And if you don't have it doesn't say your favorite, it says your biggest challenge. So in one of the answers at the bottom is none, like that doesn't fit, in which case you click that and you say what your actual answer is in the chat. That's the way to do that. And the options are, for those listening at home on your TVs, defining the marketing qualified lead. That's a big one. Lead follow-up, communication. Yeah, we're going to have to do some sales and marketing Venus and Mars type conversations here. Our teams are aligned, but our technology platforms aren't. Aligning on a shared goal. None of the above. I'll write my answer in the chat. Okay. Anyone else? Now's your chance. And if you did select none, and a few of you have done that, do write that in the chat. We'll go with that. All right, ending the poll. Let's see what we got here. Let's share the results. We have, who wins? None of the above wins it. So hit up the chat, and when you do the chat, make sure you change it to say all panelists and attendees so everyone can see your answer. So go ahead and write those. I see one of them, Katie says, clarity on MQLs and SQLs need to evolve to suit the near and long-term needs of the business. Oh, I love that. I want to address that. We also have a lot on shared goals and communication. So a lot of good stuff. Daryl, you also said none. Creating content to support the buyer's journey throughout the full funnel for each industry targeted, each persona that's involved in the sales cycle. Yeah, we got some big challenges around these topics. So with that, I want to pass it to you, sir. You've seen some of the challenges people are answering. You've added your own in there. We've got challenges. We've got a lot of challenges. and you can't just fix them all overnight. How do you wrap your head around the fact that we've got all these two different organizations and we're trying to align all these things and we've got all these problems bubbling up?
Well, that's just so you just start off with the small questions.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That way we can ease ourselves into it. I like
Meaning
that
of
one.
life is next.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, no problem. It was actually interesting, when you put that poll out there, and folks, I'm like you, I have no idea that there's going to be a poll and what it's going to be. So my answer was genuine. It was real time. And candidly, I had to really think about that because I've been in the CRO role now a whopping 2.5 months, going on 3 months. I'm feeling pretty good that I'm going to survive beyond the first 90 days. Yay me. But one of the first benefits of being the CRO was that I was able to start putting a lot of these issues to bed because now I control both teams. But if I step back 3 months ago to when I was CMO, we had issues, and I think what it wasn't bad in our case because the first part, the reason it wasn't bad in our case is because I'm old. I'm old enough to know how to preempt it, which is, as soon as I came on, took over the role, I sat down with my VP of sales and I actually created a service level agreement. And we both signed off on it, as did the CEO, who was deemed the arbiter in case of a issue that we could not resolve ourselves. And that defined a variety of things, right? That is, if you think about the common problems you have, marketing will say, I make you great leads and you don't follow up on it. Sales will say, your leads suck. Finance may come in and say, there's no ROI in my marketing spend. And marketing will say, well, because sales sucks at closing and it's not my fault. You can't, I gave an MQL. Hence, go back to the first part about defining what a lead is and getting both parties to agree to it. So a big part of the SLA is just that. What is a lead? How is it defined? Does everybody agree to it? And that is your MQL definition. But then it doesn't stop there, right? So most people say, that's it. It's MQL, marketing done, goes over to sales. No, it doesn't work that way. You've also got to define what is an SQL so that both sides are in agreement. So getting that lead definition is massive. The next thing is content. What are the content expectations, all right, in both sides? What can they do based on budget and resources, and what does sales truly need? Top of funnel, bottom of funnel. Next part is sales methodology, right? So marketing's default behavior in most cases is just to do straight and typical demand generation. We're going to spam our target industries. Yeah, we'll target based on company size and revenue or employee or industry or title, but that's it. And the reality is, if you've got a sales organization that's, ABM centric, account based, verticals, et cetera, it's a whole different definition. So what is the content that I need by industry, for each step of the sales funnel? When do I need it? Do we have agreed upon timelines? Who's the target persona? What are the measurable outcomes? Why is it going to overcome that? But to make that content, marketing needs to know about what objections or what challenges they're getting from the sales side when they're in the active sales cycle. So that means we need to agree on not just the lead, but the ICP, the ideal customer profile. So let's agree on our ICP, write that down. And then there's an agreement on ongoing communication back that sales is hearing back to marketing so that we can then refine our campaigns, refine our content. All of that goes into the SLA. CEO's got to sign off on it, and there's got to be consequences. So for example, if marketing's making a lead, then sales needs to follow up on that lead within an hour, right? So if someone fills out a form and, my marketing automation platform deems it MQL for whatever reason, boom, off it goes to sale. You get 1 hour. That's an example of a commitment. How many attempts? Am I going to make 2 attempts or 3 attempts, which is what sales normally does? Or am I going to make 7 or 12? I mean, Bridge Group says it's 9.2 attempts. Our study that we did with the University of Ottawa on 130 million sales transactions says it's over 12 attempts that are required on average, depending on your industry. So persistency, is that in the SLA? You got to have all that. You do that, and your life will be great. The reality is, though, Casey, most people don't do that. And we haven't even talked about the tech stack and the operations.
Well, we definitely want to get into tech, because we had some great comments about, by the way, some great comments saying like, where's my boss was here? Like, cool,
Yeah.
Well, they're going to be recording. Hello, bosses.
Yeah.
But that being said, so this SLA, I mean, I've heard of SLAs, but I always thought of them as individual agreements on each one of these individual items, but this sounds like a Magna Carta, like almost
It's
like
a Magna Carta.
a treaty amongst nations.
That's
you know?
exactly what it is, right? So why do
Yeah.
you have a treaty? I mean, think about, okay, classic, why do we have the World Trade Organization? Because in two countries, I'm in Canada, Casey, you're in the US, when we disagree on dairy, we disagree on softwood, whatever it might be,
Maple syrup.
and we're like, blah! We go to the WTO and they have an independent panel and they make a decision based on the terms of the trade agreements that they have. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And I was in a group, like a volunteer group, and it's kind of like herding cats. And so one of the things we had is this little mini group constitution, which I always thought was kind of silly, until a conflict arose that was like, oh, one of our members now has to either pay money, or like it wasn't really covered in the constitution. So there was a gap, and it really almost broke the whole group up because it wasn't written down in that thing. So
Well, yes.
Like a war, like it prevents.
Yes, people take
happening.
sides. Right. And that's bad, right? That breaks up the group is no longer functional.
Right.
And the original mandate you had to come together in the first place is out the door because you're all taking partisan sides. It's no different than in a well-run company. HR will give every employee a handbook.
Yeah.
Well, the handbook, most employees think, oh, this is to tell me about whatever, benefits I might have or vacation policies or whatever.
What I can't do on a company trip. Yeah.
What I can and can't do on a company trip. But it also goes to things like social media and everything else. So the point is, if your manager accuses you of bad behavior, whatever that might be, you both together go to as well as if HR gets involved, you go to the company handbook. What does the handbook say? That's that. If it's not in the handbook, you're off the hook. We need to update the handbook. If it is in the handbook, you did it or you didn't. Away we go.
So this agreement, I mean, how long did it take you to do that? Because this sounds long.
Not long, no, honestly.
Plan too.
Yeah, I mean, this is something you can do over email for the most. You get together for an hour and say, yes, we're going to do. What are the talking points we want to cover off? Like I kind of just did MQL, SQL, speed to lead, persistency, lead definition, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And then you can hammer that out if you have two parties that are intentionally trying to achieve that Middle East accord, that it doesn't actually take long because they're not unreasonable. I mean, you probably do this now, right? You probably already say, what is a lead, right? Sales will say, I'm not going to do sale. I'm not going to accept that lead unless it has, this criteria. You as a marketer, you probably do this if you have marketing automation, any kind of lead scoring or lead grading. You're already having to figure that out. What is my definition of a lead that gets it more score or a better grade to the point that it reaches a certain score, then I pop it over to sales. So you're already doing it. You just have to get consensus. And the biggest reason you're doing that is to overcome the common objections, right? And the common objections, again, are sales are going to say, your leads suck. That's the biggest objection you get all the time. And so if you can go back and say, well, according to the SLA, this is what you said you wanted, and this is what we did. And true story, we literally went through this 2 days ago here at VanillaSoft. So we have, like every company does, we have a sales team. We have SDRs, we have AEs. We have our own marketing generated leads. But then we have an outsourced agency we use for additional leads. And some of the sales reps, the AEs, were pushing back on the quality. I know nobody can relate to this. This never happens in your organization where, the sales reps push back on the outsourced lead provider in the appointment center. And so my RevOps guys who own the relationship were saying to me, how do we respond to this? And I said, well, this is easy. Only because I've done this before. I'm like, what's that? I said, go back to the statement of work we signed with them. And in the statement of work, they had a lead definition that we agreed to when we committed to engage with them, both parties, no different than an SLA. And I went and I pulled it up and there was like 5 bullets, right? And the first bullet was an identified pain or need. Okay, well, we listened to all the recordings of a handful of leads, and in none of them did the prospect ever, or their sales rep ever ask, or did the prospect ever share an identified pain? So we just went back to them and said, here's what you committed to. Here's what we're paying for. We've listened to the recordings. I don't hear it. Do you? And of course, their response was, we'll get back to you.
Right.
But that's
Oops.
why you do it.
Right. Just like with another company, just like internally, I often find it's expectations, right? And I was just talking about this, whether it's, Treasure Impact here, when you've got really good people, in your case, really good software and people, then
Yep.
it's usually not, oh, the people messed up or the people did something terribly wrong or the software did. No, it's just expectations coming in. Were they not aligned? And so I see that with sales too, and with marketing. What are we
Yeah.
expecting from each other? And just taking a second to say it before you react to it, be proactive.
Let me give you another story on why you want to do this from a marketer's
Mhm.
point of view. And this is, again, life lessons the hard way. All right. We've all been there, Casey, but love your take on this, where we're missing our numbers. The quarter's coming up. We missed our numbers, right? And now we're in that post quarter analysis of introspection. What did we do wrong? How can we fix it moving forward? And you get marketing and sales in a finger pointing exercise. And what happens is sales says marketing's leads sucked. I have already brought this up. But this is the point that happens 9 times out of 10. The CEO will physically say, okay, marketing, you got to get your act together. And you're going, but they didn't sell. But for whatever reason, there's a power, in many companies, there is a power structure. And in many companies, sales has more power than marketing. And when you have this disagreement, they default to the organization with more power, stronger leader, whatever it might be.
Sure.
So what you want to do is you physically want, as a marketer, to say, here are our expectations, right? And this is really important, that you will follow up within an hour on a new lead. You will make 9, 12, whatever attempts. They will be multi-channel because you don't know how they want to engage with you. Email, phone, social media, text message, who knows, right? And that you will use the agreed upon lexicon that we're talking about of vocabulary and talking points in your communications. And that marketing gets an approval process across all those sales emails that are templated to make sure that the customer experience is the same. And the reason you do that is because when you do miss your number and there's that power struggle, you can go back and say, well, wait a minute. We can debate whether your sales reps are talented sales reps. Fine, that's subjective. Do they know how to close? Do they know how to handle an objection? But I can see on average you're taking 4, 8, 12, 16, 36 hours. But the average is 36 to 63 hours to respond to a brand new lead that marketing hands to sales. And we can see how the SLA said you respond in an hour, and you agreed to that because we know when you don't respond within an hour, the likelihood drops like a rock. We also see you're averaging 3 attempts. Well, the stats say 9 or 12. So statistically, you're already making me 1/3 likely to succeed because you did 3 attempts instead of 9. If we agree on 12, the likelihood of marketing succeeding, getting an ROI in that campaign is 25% because you didn't make enough attempts. Oh, and we can see you only did email. You hid behind email because you're afraid of the phone or you're afraid of social.
Yeah.
All right. But you agreed to this. Oh, look, when we listen to the call recordings, your reps are talking about crap that we don't do and they're off message. When you have that SLA, you can now audit sales, and that's the power. That's the power you have, especially because you own the tech stack. You can audit all this, and all of a sudden the CEO or the CFO is going, whoa, this is new information. That's why you want the SLA, to overcome the power objections, and power imbalances that often occur. You do that once, sales will give you a lot more respect, not to mention management.
Wow. That's
You know all this, Casey.
You need like a plastic microphone. You can just
go boom, drop it. Yes, well, I can bring up my podcasting microphone. Here, let me do this.
Drop that. God,
boom.
Can't imagine how expensive that might be.
Not quite the same.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So, a couple follow-up questions from the chat and tie into this because I love the idea of overcoming the power objections. When it comes to aligning on the MQLs and the SQLs, one of the people in the chat was talking about evolving those definitions, and I love to just kind of kind of chuck you, I don't want to say a softball, but like one of those beach balls again, a big question. I'll throw a bunch of stuff at you. The topic of MQSQL, do you evolve the definitions? Do you just set them in stone right away? And what happens if sales is like, we just want to talk to everyone?
That's never happened to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Just like every time.
Yeah,
Not every time.
True. Total sidebar. So do we have all the definitions and what if sales wants to talk to everybody? Hold that thought.
Yeah.
So we've just implemented a whole ABM model here, and we've gone
Okay.
to great lengths with Dr. Gartner and IDC and Topo and Forrester. We've talked to all the vendors. We ultimately became a Terminus subscriber to their product. We've read the books. So we've done the whole thing. And the premise is for every account on an ABM model, you're going to have 5 large customers, around 40 named customers, and 500 industry customers. And the AEs work in the 5 and the 40, and the SDRs work in the 500.
Wait, we do those numbers again? You breeze through them, but they're actually kind of.
I know. 5 large, and these are ballparks, 5 large accounts. I think of them as your whales.
Yeah.
40 named accounts. These are really the sweet spot, because every named account's going to have between 5 and 10 contacts. You're going to typically on average. So it adds up pretty fast. And then 500 industry accounts. So these are, again, the next level down. The AE is going to focus on the 5 and the 40. The SDR is going to work on the 500. And when they get the 500 qualified, then they're going to, or SQL, they're going to flip it back to the AE.
Now, is that per organization or per rep?
Per rep.
Wow.
Per rep, right?
Your big company? How many people in the company?
We're 75 people.
75. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the point was, we'd done a lot of work in making these lists, like a lot of black magic gone into it, technographics, firmographics, an evaluation of why do we win, why do we lose, and all that went into the filters to create these lists. And it was cross-referenced with content. Where do we have case studies to support targeting these people, blah, blah, blah. I had a rep reaches out to me yesterday. I really like this one account. I don't like the list that we've come up with for me, my 5, my 40. And I just want to focus on this one account. So I'm just going to focus on this one account. So you say, what do you do when the rep wants to do their own thing? I had that happen yesterday. I just want to focus on one account. And I'm just going to land and expand. All I'm going to do. And I'm like, you're an idiot. So there we go.
Did you say that?
So,
did you text him that?
I will be. I literally had a conversation with him, and I said, I'll get back to you. Because sometimes you're when you're wise, you learn to say, I need to walk away while I bang my head against the wall and come back, and I'm better equipped to do the answer. So do the lead definitions evolve? Absolutely. And they evolve for a very simple reason, which is you're learning more as you sell more, especially into new markets. So again, I'll give you a really simple example. We're a sales engagement platform. We're just like SalesLoft and Outreach, different markets, and some different feature sets, but functionally, we do the same thing. We allow the SDRs to really go after their prospects and email, phone, social, etc.
And you're better than those guys? Is that correct?
We're better at those guys in our markets.
Sure.
In our markets. Those guys, they rock in enterprise accounts, medium to enterprise, and 90+% of their base is all high tech.
Okay.
Where we're more what we call traditional industries, finance, healthcare, insurance, and we're more SMB. And the SMB needs are very different from the enterprise high tech needs. High tech is an early adopter. They're usually VC funded, so they have more money. They're less risk adverse to technology. They're tech savvy, so they know how to be self-managed, self-serve. In traditional markets, not the case. SMB, a lot of risk. We're going to walk and then we're going to run. Right. So it's a different sale.
Still trying to get people to log tasks and
you got it. You nailed it. So that's what we do. And what was really interesting about that as we do our own lead definitions was literally that. So I'll give you a stupid example. In the insurance industry, we don't refer to ourselves as leading sales engagement at all. We are not sales engagement. We're lead management because they don't know the term sales engagement, but they know lead management. So that's my point, is that your vernacular and what you're learning, they didn't start off that way. We started off being sales engagement and insurance. And when people get so like, what the hell are you? I don't know what that is.
What is that?
Who are you? Why do I care? I've got Excel. Go away. Click.
Right.
And that literally was what it was. But the point is, you do learn these things. One of the things we learned was that we don't have the same number of integrations that they have, Sales Love and Outreach has, which is intentional. But what does that mean? That means that we learned through the evolution of a lead to score differently because it was like, oh, you've got Microsoft Dynamics as your CRM. Well, we don't have an out-of-the-box integration with Dynamics. We can do it through Zapier or something else, but that's going to be, we know later on, that's going to be a pain in the ass. We're going to have to overcome, we're going to have to prove it. We're going to have to get our sales techs involved, it's going to prove the concepts, and there's a good chance we'll still lose the deal because it's not native integration. So all of a sudden, we drop the lead score dramatically when it's Dynamics. Oh, your Salesforce? Boom, bump that up. We didn't initially do that. Initially, we had, oh, you have CRM. So all the lead definitions, how you score, expectations will evolve as you get smarter and smarter. Even when we built our lists, one of the things we did for our software industry, I said, I only want to go after companies who have Salesforce as a CRM. If you have HubSpot, I don't want to go after you. We can do it. I just don't want to go after you.
Right.
You have Dynamics, I don't want to do it. You have Pipedrive, I don't want to do it. Just Salesforce, because we have a sweet ass integration. I'm going to give my reps the highest chance of succeeding.
Right.
Again, that's up you to learn. That's why they evolve. Now, your second question was, what if they want to go after? That's part of your SLA. Your SLA says that you agree on what the reps will do. So for example, in our case, because we've gone all in on account-based marketing now, the SLA had to be updated to say that the reps will pursue their named and their large accounts, and the SDRs will handle just their industry accounts. That's it.
Right.
Their ABM. Now, if marketing gets an inbound lead because of our generic demand generation efforts and it's MQL, then we flip it over the wall and then it goes through the traditional process. That's okay. But I don't want you picking up the phone and calling somebody because you've got a hunch that they're going to be good for us. I need you focused. If you're not focused, I'm going to lose. So we had to update the SLA to reflect that. The reason you do that is, again, for accountability, so that if you miss your numbers and they want to go back to marketing and blame marketing, you can say, well, listen, I'm looking at this and your AEs are all over accounts that are not on their target list, in my case, or the list that we agree to, or the profiles that we agree to. So, that's a problem. You're holding me accountable. And the reality is, because they're so busy chasing those deals, they were delinquent. They were late in chasing my leads that I provided that were MQL based on our defined lead generation and our target markets. You couldn't do it, or you couldn't make the number of outreach attempts, or you couldn't respond fast enough because they were distracted. In the end, it comes down to the two leaders being mature enough to accept responsibility. How I do that is this is honest to God true how it works, is I will go to my VP of sales when I was a CMO, and I'm going to say, listen, we have our quarterly or monthly, number review. And yes, we underperformed. These are the observations I found. So I don't surprise them in the meeting. And I would say, your reps are doing shit they shouldn't be doing. And I would give it, right. And I would give it to them. And what they have is they have a chance to refute me, but more than likely what they're going to do is they're going to go, damn, you're right. Because it's all logged in Salesforce or Pardot or wherever else. It's all logged. It's there.
Right.
Or Vanilla's off. So now what they can do is they can go, mea culpa. Now when we go into that meeting, because the meeting's still going to take place, instead of me being a dick and going, yeah, we're good, he's bad, we're going to be a team and saying, yep, we have some issues. We've already talked about it. This is the root cause. This is the plan to address it. We've got a plan. Won't happen next quarter. And that, I've got your back.
Yeah.
Earns so much goodwill. Because one day marketing, you're going to screw up.
Yeah.
And then sales is going to have your back because they're going to call out what you did wrong. And you're going to go, oh. So that's how it starts. You got to earn trust and build a relationship. But the SLA is the arbiter.
Getting out of kindergarten sports, you're not like, Legos and this. You're like, it's a cycle, because then you're pissed and you want to get them back next time. Instead, you defeated that by letting them save face by saying, hey, heads up, this and this and this, and then let them show some leadership by saying, this is not going to happen again, guys. That not going to do, what a great approach to it, out of the ordinary.
Well, it's a selfish approach, candidly. It is a good approach, but it's a selfish approach. You're doing it really
selfless too.
PYA, selfish and selfless. Now, Logan, I love your comment. Are we sharing this with the VanillaSoft team? So, true story. I was on a webinar not too long ago. We're having this conversation like this, and I made a comment about one of my reps. Actually, it wasn't a webinar. Sorry, it was a sales call. True. So, Sarah Brazier, if you don't know her from Gong, Dynamite AE, formerly an SDR, she's got a lot of play. She calls me. Brilliant play. Like she uses Morgan Ingram to send me a LinkedIn video message to say, you two need to talk. And that was the referral. So of course I'm going to take her call. And I'm like, sure, I know Sarah. And so we meet up and we're having this qualification conversation about us possibly becoming a Gong customer. And in that dialogue, I made a comment to her, which was, I've got this one sales rep who just talks so slow.
Oof.
And because they're kind of a verbal thinker and they're very good sales rep, but they talk like this. And the industry they're in it's full of hustlers. We move fast, really. And when I've been at some of their calls, you can see the prospect is like clenching. It's like, get to the point, right? So I said, Gong would help us because I could then show that as a behavior. So that was an example. So we concluded the call. It was a brilliant call. She sends me a follow-up email. It was an amazing email. And I had asked her if she could include a copy of the recording for me to refresh myself. She did. She did such a great job on that call. That's actually why I asked for a copy of the recording. That I sent it to my team to say, listen to this call. This is what you should be doing. Forgetting that I had talked about this one rep who was a slow talker. And I said, everybody listen to it.
No.
And on Friday at our weekly end of week review, we'll review it and we'll share our thoughts on it. And on Thursday, I get a message from this rep saying, hey, Daryl, listen to the recording. Point made. I'll talk faster. And I'm like, oh, sugar. But you know what? It was a coaching moment and they needed to hear it. So there you go.
The person started talking faster?
I haven't listened to his recordings lately. I sure as hell hope so.
Check on that after this. What to follow up with you? Well, thank you.
Yes, there you go. How to step into it big time.
Well, hey, we are just past halfway, so I want to throw a quick poll out to everyone. This is a very important question as it comes to sales and marketing alignment, and it is being posted. What is your favorite music genre? That's right. That's right, because we just need to make sure you're still alive. This is proof of life, people. Proof of life. Are you alive? You can vote. And, the one that wins. The one that doesn't win, we'll play that. We won't play that music. That'd be terrible. What kind of categories are these, too? Where's bachata? Come on. Where's my Latin tunes? All right. Alternative. Old-time rock and roll. Okay. A few more seconds. We have a few more people that have not voted. We're going to kick you out of the meeting if you don't vote. Kidding, not kidding. All right, here we go. The results. Alternative.
Right on. That's a good choice. Although none of the above.
Really
again, make a strong showing.
What is alternative technically?
Yeah. It's not mainstream. It's alternative. What are you, stupid?
Oh, Pearl Jam. Okay. So basically music from the 90s.
Nirvana.
Yeah. 90s high school music. Got it. Okay. Sweet. All right. Well, hey, there's a lot of stuff and we had a lot of chit chat in the chat. Hey, imagine that. A lot of chit chat in the chat. And a lot of it was around technology.
Killers, sorry. Got to give a shout out to the Killers. I saw them in concert at Dreamforce. Amazing. Sorry.
Me too. I was there. Where were you? Were you up front with me?
I don't remember you up front. You were the one surrounded by the entourage, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
I was wearing a mask, so no one would know Mr. Marketing Automation was there. No, they're great. They wear like suits and stuff, though. I didn't even realize.
At Las Vegas. There we go.
Yeah.
That's what.
A Gen Xer who loves
Billie Eilish, Gen Xer.
Am I lame? No, you're not lame because you're here on this webinar. That makes you not lame automatically by proxy. You are not lame.
Hey, I am in a week's time. I'm going to be 53, and I listen to EDM. So come on, there we go. How bad is that?
I didn't realize you were that young.
Shush, shush you.
Well, hey, technology. By the way, this is fantastic, and I do want to save some time at the end to talk about this sort of CRO takeover. But real
Yep.
quick, let's talk about technology. And by the way, if you haven't already checked those here, there's some great shares going on, and I don't want to necessarily read them, incriminate anyone on the recording, but there's some really cool stories on the chat. And then our resident stand-up comic, Logan Childs, is there as well, throwing down the heat. So questions on technology. Some of the things mentioned earlier were, I think we're aligned. So let's just assume we got some kind of SLA put together. How do you make sense? And now you are CRO, you are owning sales, are owning marketing, and you are a sales enablement company yourselves. So how do you approach the tech space? How do you make sure that things are aligning up the way they should?
In the way as the tech choices or how I prioritize or detect or what we prioritize more or what?
I think a lot of people will pick a tool as like a silver bullet to instantly
Ah,
solve their problems, and then you end up
yeah,
with a really cool looking tech stock you can brag about on LinkedIn, but
yep.
you're using like 20% of each one of those tools. I don't know. Do you have an approach in how you direct your teams, and how do you look at those tools and developing them?
So we look, just, classic. So I've been around a long time. I've lived through a few generational
52
shifts.
years of marketing. Yeah.
52, not all in marketing, not all in marketing. I think the word I'm looking for right now, Casey, is butt wipe. I'll let you figure that one out. So you can either go to a single stack solution, which is the genesis of ERP, like an Oracle or an SAP, or you can go to a federated solution. All right, I'm showing my age, which is kind of best of breed. For most companies, federated is the way you go because you do a piecemeal approach, right? It's like, oh, we need a CRM, and you go get whatever you can afford is usually the number one driving thing, right? So for many young companies, they'll go either Pipedrive or Zoho or HubSpot.
Yeah.
And then they're in a little bit and they're going to go, oh, we need marketing automation now because we need to do some landing pages and some email nurtures and some scoring. And so, that goes on.
Yeah.
Support, we need some support. And it's all ad hoc. So that's good for a little bit. How we approach it, though, trying to avoid that mistake, knowing that's the process we go through, you can actually preempt a lot of your headaches to start with. If you take one simple approach, which is when I evaluate tech, I look at it from 2 points of view. Who are the users and what do those users specifically need to optimally be successful? And because I approach it this way, that automatically also discounts ERP because ERP is not good at any one thing. It's just one backbone. And the second point is I look at what's the integration options because I need to reduce my costs to do with this custom integrations or, some funky stuff to represent our processes down the road. So I'm always looking at it from a user adoption. Who's the user and will they adopt it? And I'm looking at it from what's my long-term ability to thread all these pieces together because I know I'm going to get more add-ons as time goes by. So a good example of that's what we've done here at VanillaSoft, and it's got an interesting postscript, which is, we did for 15 years, we've had VanillaSoft as the solution that we use in sales as a whole. Mm-hmm. We've had HubSpot for 4 years on our marketing automation. That was a choice that was made based on price. We did not choose, say, a Pardot solution because we weren't using Salesforce. So we went with more of a best of breed. Then we got Zendesk for support, and then we got ChurnZero for success, and then we got NetSuite for finance. And that worked well for a while. So each department was best in class, and they were able to use it. What was good for us on HubSpot, and Pardot's probably very comparable in this situation, candidly. I'm a big fan of Pardot as well. It's not a Pardot versus HubSpot thing. I like both. I've used both. I've implemented both. But it was, in other words, what it wasn't Marketo. It wasn't Eloqua. It was exactly what I needed for it. It was sophisticated enough, but not so much that it was overwhelming, complex, and overkill.
Mm.
So I was looking at being nimble. And every one of those tools we picked was about being nimble and being affordable and budget friendly and being able to be used and deliver a level of service that would allow us to do our job without requiring massive infrastructure. So that's how we kind of look at it, the usability and the cost ROI.
Nice.
Usability being huge.
Yeah.
Well, and then only recently, when we went to ABM, was that the final catalyst that said, okay, I now need a true CRM. So we got Salesforce.com. And more than anything, it's two things it does for us. That's where my account executives, and only my account executives live. That's it. And now I got all my pieces integrated into it because I knew one day I would get here. And so now they're all integrated. So now it's my corporate database. It's my corporate backbone. I can now measure a customer experience from cradle to grave without using a whole bunch of backend, without using Airtable, without using Zapier, without using, a bunch of Google Sheets. I can actually just go to one spot. So I had to evolve to that. It's the point I'm trying to make. As budgets allowed, as sophistication allowed. The other thing we did, big emphasis on this, was we documented all of our processes so that if any one of us ever got hit by a bus, the next person could replace them. Because when you're running lean, they're the Pardot person or they're the Zendesk person, right? And if they change jobs, I don't know. We got to have a webinar. How does that work again? I don't know. So it was in my own best interest to make sure everything was fully documented, which was fantastic because sometimes you have one of your employees go on a maternity leave. Okay, what are you going to do? Here's the SOPs. But that's how we approached it. Very much pragmatic, user options, just enough features and functions to get the job done, budget friendly, but with a long-term view of allowing us to scale. Does that make sense at all? Is that a bad approach?
No, I feel like the evolution is one of the key takeaways I'm getting from this whole thing. MQLs are evolving, our understanding of our customers evolving, the technology needs to be able to evolve with us. And I really kind of want to shift now to the bigger evolution. I want to first get to your story because you're running marketing when we first met, and then you became the CRO, which is this sort of almost in this new term that's getting really popular lately, but you took over everything on the revenue side. Which sounds exciting because you came from the marketing side. I know you've got the sales experience too. So I'd love to hear that story. And then from there, let's get into, after that, talking about, SDR, BDR, where do they fit? And then how do you oversee the whole organization?
What do you want to know? Ask me your questions.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll just ramble nonstop.
Running marketing. Tell me, Grandpappy, how did it work that you went from running marketing to running everything? How did you make
How did I get there? So, I mean, full disclosure, I never once put my hand and said, make me CRO. That never once happened. I want to be CRO. I want to have a bigger kingdom. That never happened. What did happen, because I was CMO, C-level, that right away says, and if you will, the difference between I would contend the difference between a VP of marketing and a CMO is the VP of marketing focuses around their team. The CMO runs their team, but has oversight for the bigger organizations. In other words, I know that if success or support do a bad job, those customers are likely to go to Capterra or G2 or Google and write a bad review, which is then going to affect our sales ability to close a deal. And that's bad customer experience. So as a CMO, I can go to those other teams and say, you suck, and championing the overall customer experience, you need to fix that. VP marketing typically wouldn't do that. So I already had that eyesight, that visibility into that corporate mandate, right? I can look at across teams. And you should be. Too many marketers, kids, here's my lesson for you today. Don't just look like this. Look at how the rest of the organization works and how you influence them and how they influence you. And be aware, and don't be afraid to express yourself. And because we all love somebody who's proactive, in a constructive, tactful way. So we were missing our targets. We were doing good numbers. I don't want to confuse the two. You can have great results and still underperform against expectations. either your expectations were wildly wrong or they weren't and you underperformed. And so this had happened for probably a year and a half. And at the year and a half mark, I went into the CEO's office and I said this. I said, we're underperforming. Guess what? Full circle here, kids. I have an SLA. I know I'm doing my job. So you're busting my behind for the money we're spending in marketing and looking for an ROI, but I have no control on the sales team and how well they close or follow their defined processes. So I'm in here saying, we have a problem, CEO. What are we going to do? And eventually that led to us bringing in some external consultants to help us revise our sales processes and recruitments. Big names, lots of money spent, all you would recognize. And then we brought in a sales expert for over a year to work with us alongside us and our leadership and our individual reps. And while that all had positive impacts, the bottom line was we kept on missing our targets. So they had to make a decision. Do we replace the VP of sales with another VP of sales? Do we do it internal or do we go external? Mm-hmm. And I can go, I'm trying to think how much I can share here. There were reasons why they chose me specifically. Sure. I think the best of it was they felt I already knew the market. They felt with my sales background, they felt I knew marketing inside out. And here's the best part. They felt I'd proven myself. What I heard over and over again internally, and it's from the external consultants as well, is that the marketing team, hands down, was a rock star. They were just performing and achieving. So they were hoping I could repeat that over here. And it's an opportunity cost. If we hire somebody externally, then me and they have to figure it out all over again, new SLA, new everything else. They need to learn the product. They need to learn the market. Whereas you bring me in, then all that's gone. I've never been a CRO before. I've been a VP of sales, but never a CRO. Right. So that was a risk. But anybody you hire is a risk, whether you go outside or inside. So that was an acceptable risk. And then what happened was my CEO floated it to me and saying, would you be willing to do this? Now, about a year before that, when I was still frustrated, I said, if for whatever reason you want to do somebody internally to help with sales, I am not asking for the job, but I am telling you that I'm willing to be called upon. I'm here. So I did plant a seed, and then I walked away. And at the time, my CEO's reaction was he almost laughed at me. Not laughed derisively, but like, oh, marketing guy.
Silly marketing.
You're so cute, right?
Right.
So fast forward a year, and here we are. And even then, that decision was made with the whole process of, Daryl, if we give you this job. So it's like a job interview all over again. Mm-hmm. What's your plan? You need to present to us your 90-day plan if we give you this job. Right. So I had to do a 90-day plan. And I also gave to them my expectations. It wasn't just a walk in the park. Let's talk compensation. Let's talk, what are the rules of engagement? Because I want different rules of engagement than what my VP of sales had. So we had a negotiation and away we go. So, wow. And the one thing that was really specific is my CEO was like, Daryl, I need you to be a CRO. I do not need you to be a VP of marketing or a VP of sales. I need you to go backfill those positions, but we need somebody who will unite the families and hold the whole revenue machine accountable. That was very powerful. Many CEOs don't understand that. Yeah. First thing I did in my 90-day plan was I said, I'm going to make a sales enablement team. I need to staff that. I said, I'm going to make a revenue operations team. We had sales operations and marketing operations. I'm going to make a single RevOps team. We had to staff that. I changed the complete ratios of the sales staff. I brought in a lot of new roles we didn't even have before. And to do all that, though, because my budget was fixed, you're thinking, well, Daryl, I don't have that freedom. You have a lot of freedom. Remember, I'm not VC funded. I'm living off the profit that we make. I am not a unicorn. So I had to move marketing dollars to hire these people. So my marketing spend dropped so I could hire certain people. If I was the CMO, I would have said, go to hell. You're not getting any of my program spend, right? But because I'm the CRO, I can now move all the pieces on the board. And that's actually why I took the job, because I knew there'd be no friction.
Right. Wow. And that's powerful. It sounds like it all goes back to the beginning when we were talking about the SLAs and marketing being squared away with the agreement, the peace treaty that's worked out says X, and then making sure as hell that you're doing your part of it.
That's it.
Like that really just flips the script. I mean, you hear about so many marketers that get bounced when companies are doing poorly. And
They get bounced and then they whine and then they complain and they said they don't get marketing. I wasn't given a fair chance. Sales has all the power. Well, there could be some elements of truth, but you also brought a lot of this on yourself because you didn't do some basic things like this.
Wow, this is really, I could see more and more marketers becoming CROs by listening to this. This is very, now let's get into sales enablement here. By the way, those are with hard stops. Thanks, Lisi and others for coming. Recording. We're going to go until your questions are answered, until my questions are answered. This is great content here. SDR, BDR, are they the same? They have different letters. I've seen other name, BizDev team. Where should they live? Who are they? Where should they live? And then after that, I was talking about sales enablement.
So in my world, the SDR and the BDR is just a naming definition, and you can pick whatever one you want to. They're fundamentally identical. Others may have a different point of view, but that's my perspective. And then you have the account executive role, which is pretty straightforward, self-explanatory. Where should the SDRs live? Okay, I've done webinars on this. My strong opinion is they should live under marketing. Now, in my current structure, I haven't moved them because I am CRO, so I kind of own the whole thing, so I'm indifferent. The reason, if I had a VP sales and I had a VP of marketing and they were peers and that was it, I'd put them in marketing. And the reason I would do that is because marketing is already doing a qualification process. It's called a marketing qualified lead. Mm-hmm. Why would I split up the qualification process? All right, put them in marketing. So now I'm going from marketing qualified to sales qualified. And because they're going to use content, they're going to use messaging, they're going to be writing a lot of emails and cadences. Well, those are all marketing skills. And in fact, I have a lot of SDRs come to me and tell me how my subject lines suck and how their open rates are fantastic and how, my emails are not readable on mobile or whatever, right? I never used to get that feedback. I don't have AEs saying that, but I have SDRs saying that, which I love when I get that. Then I educate them and tell them they're wrong. But that's an aside. So I think they're going together. But with that said, if you have a healthy organization, like we just talked about, the SLAs and everything else, then they can belong in sales, and that's fine. The issue where you're going to be stuck is that everybody who becomes an SDR secretly wants to be an account executive.
Yeah, it was actually a question in the chat asking that exact thing. What
do you do there we go. See, I didn't even see that. Yeah, so that they all want to become an account executive, and therefore they think marketing is a negative. I don't want to be there. So in an ideal world, pre-COVID, what I would say, and I have said this on record many times, is that you put the SDRs under marketing, but you put them beside the salespeople on the floor. So they can be part and parcel of the revenue banter and whatnot. They can develop those relationships. That's really, really important. And the beauty is then they become a bit of a plant. So they can say, well, did you know marketing's doing this, guys? Did you know marketing is a new content piece? Because even though marketing's told them, they didn't miss it. They didn't hear it, right? And then it goes the other direction. They come back and say, oh, I heard, sales use our content and it sucked. Or sales use our messaging and it sucked. They're spies. I call them ambassadors, delegates.
Yes.
So that's in a perfect world. That's how that happens. Because the SDRs truly need to have marketing skills. That's the best part. So, but they do want to become AEs. The problem is too many of them are so focused on becoming an AE that they don't learn to become a good SDR first. Mm-hmm. And then they get frustrated because they're not ever promoted to become an AE. So they're looking too far ahead. So if you're an SDR and you're listening, just practice your craft. Yeah. Again, Sarah Brazier of Gong is a good example. There's a ton of them out there that are amazing. Morgan Ingram, the whole SDR Chronicles, David Delaney at 10 Bound, all these guys are people, resources should be going to learn how to do your craft better. So that's the roles. And there you go, brother. What's next on your question list?
Boom. Wow. Sales enablement. That's next. So here's a twist. If technically we would put SDR with marketing, isn't sales enablement tool technique? And if they use that, isn't really a marketing enablement tool?
Well, you could argue that, and that would be an interesting point of view. And I would suggest that many, and I would push it back to you. How many times have you seen your prospects? I know you are like a Pardot rock star and a marketing, savant,
Yes. Yes, I
where
am.
they try to shoehorn a marketing automation tool to do sales engagement, to do those sales cadences. It's a pain in the arse. It truly is a pain in the arse, right? So, and the reason is, we can go into it, but the reason is, marketing automation is really designed for one-to-many. It's really designed primarily just for email and nothing else. And it's designed for top of funnel to middle of funnel, typically. And the messaging value props are so different. So when you do the handoff from middle of funnel down to the SDRs, it's different content. It's multi-channel, phone, social, video, SMS. It's a one-to-one relationship because now we're getting personal. Now I'm getting to know you, Casey. I'm developing a rapport with you, not some nameless person. Or even though marketing may send an email from Daryl, we all know Daryl didn't write it. We all know Daryl didn't send it, right? So it's a different dynamic. So to me, the perfect tech stack is it's a pyramid, and it's in 3 layers, and it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to do marketing automation on the bottom because I'm hitting the biggest bunch of people. That's where I'm reaching out, and all different markets and whatnot. And then as they become MQL, and so the marketers use marketing automation, and as they go to become MQL, I go to the middle of the pyramid, and that's where sales engagement is. And they're trying to turn that MQL into an SQL. The best example, the simplest example is BANT. I'm calling you, I get a hold of you because it was an MQL, and I'm determining, do you have budget authority, need, technology, timeline, whatever. So, and that's where your SDRs, BDRs live. And if it is SQL, then it goes to the top because only a few make it to the top. And that becomes opportunities. And they usually live in a CRM system like Salesforce, and the AEs live there. So the AEs need a tool that will help them create opportunities and work the opportunity and forecast it. They need that's a very different tool from sales engagement, which is about multi-channel engagement with a set cadence over a set number of times, which is then a different tool again from marketing automation. Each department has a different role and objective and are measured by different, metrics. And therefore you need a different tool for the job. So that's kind of the process.
And it ties back into your earlier conversation around tech and who's going to use it.
Yeah.
What's successful for them.
You got it.
You definitely can see, things go wacky when you try to make, sales engagement or, some kind of sales enablement tool to be your everything, marketing automation, everything. And then, or the vice versa. You're trying to make one of these tools be everything for everyone. It can get kind of wacky.
Well, it's still different. How did marketing automation come to be in the first place? Well, we tried to do marketing out of CRM and it sucked.
Anyone who's ever tried to send email out of Salesforce, it's like,
don't get me going on that, right? So you get the idea. These evolve because they have different requirements. And it was interesting, if you look long-term, we prognosticate, fundamentally, marketers don't live in CRM anymore. Maybe they go in and can set up campaigns, but they really don't do jack squat in CRM, other than maybe see a dashboard. All right, they live in marketing automation. They may live in other complementary tools, SEMrush or what have you, but they're marketing automation. The same is true for account executives. They live in, CRM, and the SDRs live in sales engagement. But what I think is going to happen, just like marketing has left CRM, and CRM is just a database for them, a repository, a central backbone, you're going to see sales engagement expand to do the entire sales process. So ultimately, I think within 5 years, you won't see sales in CRM, and you'll see marketing continue marketing automation. Now, that doesn't mean they're not, those pieces aren't owned by Salesforce
right,
or Dynamics. Don't confuse the two. But you're seeing the platforms evolve that this person needs a very specific process. And Salesforce has got a lot of issues for an actual account executive, right? How many times, half the reason a rep only makes 2 or 3 attempts and gives up is because if you log into Salesforce, you've just got this massive list of tasks and it's overwhelming. And you're like, I'm not going to call them. I'll call them. And then up it
Right.
comes, and now you got to make
Sure.
a task. At the end of the day, I'll go record all my stuff I did, right? But you never do,
Gotcha.
right? So sales engagement gets rid of all that, and that's why it was created in the first place.
Boom. There it is. Last question, because I know we're going over time here. We still got some diehards still in the room. By the way, if anyone still has a question, definitely chat it now, or I throw this last one to Daryl so we can get yours too. Otherwise, forever hold your peace, or email us afterward. What is one lasting takeaway you would like to leave with our audience based on what we've discussed today? What a great question.
I'll give you. I'll remind you of something I've already said, but then I'll give you a specific takeaway.
Bonus.
Yeah. So I'll remind you that if you want a career in marketing and you want to scale, you want to climb the ladder, you'll never do it by being an expert at just what you're doing today. So you need to understand how the whole marketing team works. Don't assume you're an expert. That's your kiss of death. But you need to understand how the pieces work. And you need to understand how the other teams work. So take a sales rep out to lunch, buy them a coffee, do whatever you want to do, meet on a patio and drill them with a lot of questions. Understand their jobs. If you really want to be successful, go be a sales development rep for a month or 2 or 6. And then you can go back. I've done both. Remember, I ultimately went back to marketing for the last 10 years before I took on the CRO role, but I have done both. And that allowed me to be a better marketer because I knew when I did a campaign what the sales reps would and wouldn't react well to.
Right.
So that's, understand the bigger picture and how all the pieces work together, but really understand the revenue machine. But the one piece of advice I'd give you, I literally just gave this piece of advice to my son, my 25-year-old son. He's doing very well in their career, but I gave him this advice today. I said, learning is earning. And what you need to understand is it's not, emphasis, not the responsibility of your employer to equip you with more skills. If they do that, that's nice, that's generous, that's a bonus, that's a perk. You should be grateful and appreciative, but that is not incumbent upon them. They're paying you. It's an exchange of money for services. You're doing what you're doing now. They give you money. It's a trade. They can keep on doing that forever and a day, and they'll be just fine, but you won't get promoted. So if you truly want to get better and to have more opportunities and to scale that career, then you need to take the time to read, to consume, to watch, like you're doing right now in this webinar. But not just do that, because anybody can just, listen to Tony Robbins. You actually have to apply the lessons and see if they make a difference. You have to do. And the best thing is we marketers are so conditioned from the beginning to A/B test everything. Treat every new lesson you learn when you go to the do part as an A/B test. I used to do it this way, and now I'm going to try doing it this way. How are the results? Did it work? Did it not work? Oh, it kind of worked. Well, maybe I need to take that away. And now that becomes A, and now I'm going to do a B and iterate. And then you learn and you expand. Then all of a sudden you go, oh my goodness, now that I understand this, I've done it a few times, I've measured it. Now I can start to see how I can apply this elsewhere. So if you want to scale, my advice to you, learning is earning. That's how it will change your life. And you can't just talk about it, you got to do it.
Wow.
Is that good? Did I do okay?
That's great, man. Thank you. Thank you for coming on here and sharing your wisdom with us. And this is the first time I've heard, and it's really kind of cool. Not that sales needs to lose, because we're all trying to win together, but this is the first time where that power curve, I've seen that be overcome on the marketing side, and it wasn't through magic, right? You didn't do some like Game of Thrones ceremony to be able to assume the
I stabbed them
throne,
all.
right? Like you
Yes.
were deliberate, you made agreements, and then you stuck to them, and then you measured and proactively looked to see if the other side was doing it too. And it really shows that there's a future for marketing being at the head of a whole organization.
It does. And so true story. When we agreed that I would take on the role, now you'll love, all of my marketers online here will love this. We had a discussion about how do we roll this out? How do we do our product launch of Daryl as CRO, right? For maximum ROI. And one of the things we talked about specifically was we acknowledged that my becoming a CRO with a primarily marketing background was going to resonate within the industry. It would appeal to many marketers who aspire for a similar role, and it would cause many sales people to look over their shoulders and go, "Oh, what's this all about?" Either way, it's going to put eyeballs upon VanillaSoft. And so we pitched that story intentionally to generate, and it's amazing how much it has resonated. I do a lot of public speaking, but in the last 3 months, I bet you 1 in 3 times I'm on a webinar or a podcast or whatever, or an interview, it's about this. How did a marketer become a CRO? What's really interesting is how things have changed. What I'm hearing now is people say that, someone like myself represents the new CRO, footprint. That is now the new reference point, that you got to have all these skills. And that is what I'm so excited about. There is an industry-wide acknowledgement now that you physically should have in that role, sales, marketing, and ops. So that gets me so jazzed. That gets me so pumped. And you're really seeing a revenue team come together now, right? It's not just sales and marketing. The overlap is getting more and more and more. So it's an exciting time to be in our game. Lots of opportunity. SDRs moving to marketing, marketing moving to SDRs. So exciting times.
Yeah. I could see you supporting that concept of go be a BDR for a month, a year, whatever, get that experience in.
My first job at a school, because I was a programmer, many of you know, but I didn't want to program. My first 6 months, I sold photocopiers door to door. Hated it. Sucked at it. Learned so much.
Yeah.
And I pulled upon that. So having a little bit of sales experience is my point here, is invaluable. It's a differentiator. Trust me, when I have CVs, when CVs have recruiters look at me, in years past, they're like, "Oh, you got a sales background. That's interesting." That's always what happens. Oh, that's always interesting. And your resume floats to the top. Here's the 3 finalists we're submitting for you to evaluate. So it does help you out.
Wow, man, this is good stuff. I appreciate you coming on here.
No problem, man. I'm really glad that you wore your
CRO-like.
What's that?
You're looking very CRO-like. The comment in the chat was not your stereotypical 3-piece suit sales guy who only thinks sales is tops.
Sales is tops. That's it. No, I don't. I'll be the first one to tell sales they're not tops, and I'll be the first to tell marketing they're not tops either. But that's an aside. And in the end, so here's the funny part: what people always forget, and this is the best part about being, whether you're a VP of marketing or a CMO or a CRO, is the only thing that changes is the degree. Is part of our compensation is on revenue. And that's the really important part. Why was I able to go in 18 months before this happened to my CEO? I didn't share that. Why was that I was able to do that? Because a portion of my compensation, right? You have your base, and then you have your bonus for OTE, on track earnings.
Yep.
It's based on revenue. Because of that, I am allowed to walk into the CEO's office and say, sales is messing with my take-home pay.
They are, right?
They are.
And if you hadn't been tagged in that, maybe you wouldn't have cared so much. It's not your bag. Why do you step it into their
Correct. So that's something that marketing forgets sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're taking money out of my pocket. So that's the same reason you as a marketing leader have permission to challenge sales. When they say, "Oh, go away," you know what you're talking about. "Oh, brother. Oh, sister. Back the truck up."
Yeah.
And so part of that SLA, I didn't even talk about this part. Part of that SLA, you don't need to change number. You don't need to exchange specifics, but you do need, when you get it from your counterpart, or you go to HR, you go to the CEO or the CFO, you need to say, "Help me understand the framework of my counterpart's compensation. Well, this much is based on base, and this much is based on achieving these goals and these goals. These are all bonus." You need to know that, because what they'll never tell you is when they're pushing back on you or they're challenging you and you're like, "I don't get it. They're blatantly wrong. What I'm saying is the right thing to do." And you know it is. Often it's because it's that bonus structure, right? They're
There's a
motivated.
kicker
Not
on
with
something else that's sort of influencing them.
yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things you need to do when you're part of the SLA is you need to understand how they're compensated, because that's what's driving their behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why those comps can get funky. That it's important to make sure they're the right thing because it will drive behavior.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And if they're smart, they do the same on you. So,
True.
all's fair, love and war.
And they find
But
out you're
those
just
are
all
some of the
base.
things that people don't think to do. And the funny part here is, you think about it, folks, all of this is in your control. You can sit down with an SLA and craft one up. That's very reasonable. Why wouldn't you? It's not malicious. It's not Machiavellian. Let's make sure we're aligned, right? That's the
Right.
premise. Who's going to argue with that? How are you
Right.
compensated? I need to make sure that my decision-making gives you the highest probability of achieving your bonuses. So help me understand that. It goes both ways. These conversations, they just have to be asked. If someone came to you and said, help me understand how you're bonused so I can make sure you get it, you're damn right you're going to share it with them.
Now you're my
right?
best friend. Let's do this.
You're my best friend, right? So stop thinking of sales and marketing like, oil and water. It's you're so close. You're so close.
Yeah.
The only thing difference, some skills are clearly different. The biggest difference really is just timelines. Sales is, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, boom, done. And marketing is like, I'm thinking 6, 12, 18 months out. So that's the only true difference where you're going to stumble, because sales wants up now and it's coming 3 months down the road and you can't make it come any faster and they're impatient. Then that's just a knowledge sharing. And some people you can address it with, some people you can't. But yeah, the compensation is what you need to know, and compensation is what allowed me to go to the CEO.
Boom. There it is. Hey, closing up here, throw out some links. VanillaSoft, anything we should check out? What should we know about it? What should we link to?
Yeah. So if you're an existing client of SalesLoft or Outreach or any other sales engagement solution today, we're a fantastic alternative. And if your contract's coming up, give us a kick of the can. We'll save you some money. You might like the results. Hey, maybe we're not the right fit for you, but better off, maybe we are. You can find us at vanillasoft.com. And it's as simple as that. I would suggest you follow me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active there. Also active on Twitter. By the way, if you don't follow Casey on Twitter, you're missing out on some great stuff. You got to follow that cat on Twitter. So there you go. Thank you, Christina. Christina's got the link right there. And of course, in the chat history, I think near the beginning of the session, I put my LinkedIn profile. Please click on that. Follow me. If you don't know what to do, if all else fails, go to Google, type in the word Praill, Praill. And the first hit you're going to find is some distant relative I'm not aware of who killed their mother in the Canadian prairies. No idea who they are. But the rest of the hits will all be me, baby.
Wow. Now I'm curious. What a memorable name. Oh, thank you again so much. And for those attending and anyone with questions afterward, hit up Daryl. Don't be a weirdo. Don't be a spammer. Say where you heard him. It was on the webinar, on the podcast. And man, thanks again, Daryl. Appreciate it.
No problem, guys. You take care. Be good.